Are you fascinated by the paranormal and want to hear about encounters that have happened to real-life people in real-life places? Do you need a drink to calm those nerves after hearing some scary stories?
You're listening to Booze and Bourbon.
Well, we invite you to grab a drink, whether it's a coffee or something with a little bit more spirit in it. Grab a blanket, snuggle in, because I'm Kim and that's Jen, and we're Booze and Bourbon. Well, hello there. How are you doing, Jen?
I am just as berry as ever.
Did you say berry?
Yes, just because I ate a lot of berries today, so I just had to use the word.
Well, that's special. I'm happy to be filming again with you this week.
Yes, that's very special, isn't it?
You are extra cheesy today.
Yes.
Yeah, so guys, we are filming. We are down in the Yarmouth, Nova Scotia area this week, and we have not gotten to the location yet, so I'm feeling pretty excited at this point.
We don't really know what we're in for, but we're excited.
Our ghost hunting team has some new equipment, aka a new Ouija board from an authentic Wiccan lady who makes them in Salem.
Isn't that just perfect?
I think, well, I've seen pictures of it. It looks absolutely beautiful. The guy who ended up owning it before our team never used it because it freaked him out. He just wanted to use it for decoration. So here we are. Why does it freak him out?
I don't know, but I can't wait to touch it. I mean, I say that now, and then tomorrow I could be on here with like, a third eye or something.
Or it could be another situation where we need to sleep in the same hotel room again.
Yes, Kim. I'll never forget that.
It's crazy because that's just so not like you.
No, I had a moment, everyone. I had a moment.
Yeah. Well,
that lasted a long time.
Yeah.
Approximately 12 to 15 hours.
You're doing okay, though. Absolutely fine. We've got a pretty cool topic to share with you guys today. It's all about haunted Savannah, thanks to a listener who talked about it and got me really intrigued about a not so little place called Savannah, Georgia. So we're talking a city built on top of graves. It's going to be a good one. And before we go any further, we are going to try our new whiskey. We have this in our collection now. So it is Little Book Chapter 3. So excited.
But it's a big book of taste.
That's what I've heard. That is what I've heard. Basically, what Little Book is all about is Freddie No, the son of Fred No, who just happens to be Jim Beam's master distiller, is the mastermind behind this Little Book series. Freddie is Jim Beam's great-great-grandson. It's been running through his blood, this whole bourbon industry, for a long time. So it is a blend of 4 bourbons. It's 9-year-old Knob Creek. It's 9-year-old Basil Hayden's, 11-year-old Booker's, and 12-year-old Baker's, which are both really strong. So it's all bottled at barrel strength, coming in at 122.6 proof. Coming in hot.
She toasty.
So what do you see here with the color, Jen?
Well, it's a beautiful dark amber tone.
Yeah. What are you smelling?
Besides greatness, I smell a lot of vanilla, oak, sweet caramel, and some baking spice.
I agree.
She's had too much already.
When you start your day off with rum cream, I mean...
Where do you go from here?
That's right. Exactly. So I'm getting a lot of rye flavors, so definitely high in the rye content, but lots of good vanilla and sweet caramel, but definitely some charred oak as well. A lot with the high ABV content, so I feel like this would be really good with just a little piece of ice and maybe a big hearty meal like steak, baked potatoes. Yeah.
Just something to like hold that down.
Yeah.
It's fire.
Yeah. Delicious. So there you have it. Little Book. Love it. Absolutely love it. I cannot believe we actually were able to get it here in Nova Scotia.
That is very exciting news for us.
Yeah, it is definitely. So Jen, I'm wondering maybe now that you have a warm bourbon pocket.
Yeah.
Would you like to play Would You Rather? Do you want to go first?
I mean, absolutely. Kimberly, would you rather have a sleepover in one of the crypts in Savannah, Georgia? Because they have beautiful, beautiful graveyards there. Mm-hmm. So a little slumber there. Mm-hmm. Or would you rather have a sleepover in a very deserted cemetery in the middle of the woods?
Ooh.
That's unmarked. So we're not really sure why it's there.
Ooh. Well, I guess I'm going to get lots of peace and serenity if I'm out in the one in the middle of the woods. Also feeling pretty isolated out there. Mm-hmm. I really loved the graveyards and the crypts in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So I can only imagine that these ones in Savannah would give me the same feels. Creepy, although like also very beautiful architecturally.
Yes.
So I think I'm gonna go for the crypts.
That's a good choice.
So Jen, would you rather be known as the vampire that creeps out from behind one of the crypts in Savannah, or would you like to be known as the voodoo lady that comes out behind the crypts in New Orleans?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, vampire, I can just look the same for the rest of my life. I feel in a past life I've already tried the vampire thing, so I'm going to go with the voodoo lady because she's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Catches people off guard a little bit more. I don't look so pasty. Got a little bit more color. So
Perfect.
We'll go with that.
Okay. Love it. Good choice. All right. So guys, just after the break, we're going to get into today's main topic, which is all about Savannah, Georgia. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Some of you may know that I am mildly obsessed with New Orleans. There's lots of reasons behind that. I love the culture. I love the mixing pot of religions, races, music, beliefs, and the architecture, of course. But I would have to say the biggest reason why I love New Orleans so much is how haunted it feels. It feels like it's an accepted fact that the homes in the French Quarter are inhabited by ghosts of residents past. Voodoo, vampires, palm readers, they're all very well known and they're very accepted there. What I have always heard, though, is that if you love New Orleans, you're going to love Savannah. I have a friend who stayed there actually for a vacation and very quickly realized that her Airbnb had another guest, one that wasn't at all living. Today, we're going to get into the background of the hauntings in Savannah and some of the spookiest stories and places that you can find there.
Savannah is one of America's most haunted cities, according to travel website Orbitz. It boasts more than 25 different ghost tours, ranging from haunted pub crawls to family-friendly spook walks to paranormal tours where guests are escorted around in a hearse. Savannah is a city that is literally built on its dead, says T.C. Michaels, founder and guide for the Best Savannah Tour Company. It's what's underneath the ground that gives this place its special energy that is a magnet for the spirit world. Michaels isn't joking. A number of popular Savannah restaurants, shops, and homes are built atop old cemeteries where bodies remain in the ground below. Yes, you could very well be biting into a Caesar salad while the decayed bodies of Civil War era dead rest in the soil beneath your feet.
Oh my God.
It's very comforting. The city, which was founded in 1733, is home to buildings that date back to the 18th and 19th centuries. Ominous landmarks where mystery and intrigue has, according to locals, kept restless spirits shaking, rattling, and rolling. If you talk to locals in Savannah, you'll likely hear a ghost story that isn't on one of the official tours. Everyone here, it seems, has a first-person account. While this might inspire an eyebrow raise in some, it's an adrenaline rush for millions of visitors to Savannah, where the city's dark history, secrets, and legends unfold at night during its ghost tours. Here are some of the spookiest spots in Savannah, which are featured prominently on most tours. Visit if you dare.
Ooh, sounds spooky. All right, so let's get into our very first location, which is called the Marshall House. Sleep with one eye open at this hotel. Built in 1871, the Marshall House Hotel has a lot of paranormal activity attached to it. So much so, it's actually become a selling point for the hotel. Once occupied by General Sherman during the Civil War, the hotel was later used as a Union hospital. Hotel workers and guests have reported seeing the ghost of amputee soldiers roaming the halls and smelling the odor of rotting flesh.
Ew.
Others have reported apparitions of ghostly children, laughter, and the sound of running echoing through otherwise empty halls, faucets turning on and off, and other creepy happenings that might keep you up at night.
Colonial Park Cemetery, the oldest cemetery in Savannah. This has been a final resting place for residents since 1750. Only its spirits don't seem to want to rest. Visitors have witnessed shadowy figures moving between tombstones and burial vaults. Some have witnessed an eerie green mist in the cemetery at night. More than 700 victims of the 1820 yellow fever epidemic are buried here, and legends of voodoo rituals and duels to the death are part of its lore. The more popular ghost attached to the cemetery, however, is Renee Rondelier. As the legend goes, Renee was caught after murdering 2 young girls inside the cemetery and lynched by an angry mob. Renee's ghost has been reported wandering the cemetery and swinging by his neck from a tree. It isn't uncommon for guests to see shadowy figures moving silently through the headstones and burial vaults. Twice this year alone, guests on the Beyond Good and Evil tour have seen a green mist floating through the cemetery behind Nicodemus.
The only problem with this story is that it might not be true. This character hasn't been found in historical records. Nobody has even found records of the little girls being killed by a serial killer in the cemetery. But, history is sketchy sometimes that way. This story is a really good ghost story, but it might not be based in reality. Some tour guides will even tell you that he lived at a house that's located on the plot the Hampton Lillibridge house sits on. They will tell you that the glass on the brick wall surrounding the part of the house was to keep Renee from wandering. So while Renee Rondelier may be the most famous ghost to come from the Colonial Park Cemetery, the story, like I said, might just not be true. You're going to tell us about something that very much is true, though.
Channeling my inner voodoo. Voodoo ceremonies in the cemetery. Savannah is home to, and has been for a long time, a thriving voodoo culture. Many voodoo practitioners live in and around Savannah. Many of them have moved outside of the city of Savannah due to various reasons. Before Colonial Park Cemetery was closed at night, it wasn't uncommon for early morning visitors to find the remnants of a voodoo ceremony performed just the night before. The soil from the graves was used in various voodoo rituals. In addition to the soil, graves were sometimes raided in order to obtain human bones. These stories are true. To what extent the Colonial Park Cemetery was used as a place of ritual can be disputed. But I don't think there is a single knowledgeable person who would dispute that Colonial Park was used for voodoo rituals and ceremonies.
Interesting. Okay.
Wouldn't you be pissed if someone just robbed your grave and was like, yeah, I just need to borrow this femur bone for a sec here for this ritual. I'll give it back, maybe, but maybe not.
Oh, yeah, that would be brutal. Then there's also misplacing bodies in Savannah. There's the Graham family vault. Don't go dying in Savannah because we might just lose your body. Well, hopefully the system for tracking dead bodies has improved over the past 200 years, but in the early days of Savannah, lost bodies were not uncommon. On the ghost tours in Savannah, death and dying inevitably come up during the conversation on a ghost tour. One of the more interesting stories about Savannah's approach to the dead is the story of Major General Nathaniel Greene. It seems that being a major general, second in command to General George Washington during the Revolutionary War, wasn't even enough to guarantee yourself a proper burial here in Savannah, was it, Jen?
I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. They lost the body of a general. On June 19th, 1786, Nathaniel Greene succumbed to heat stroke on his plantation, Mulberry Grove, on the outskirts of Savannah. The major's body was transported into Savannah by boat the following day. In the late afternoon, his body was transported to the cemetery for burial. Wow. It was decided that his body would be placed inside of the Graham's family vault. The Graham family wasn't using it. They fled the country as sympathizers to the crown a few years earlier. A few years after Nathaniel Greene was laid to rest inside of the vault, it was opened up for his son, George Washington Greene. George died when his boat overturned near Mulberry Grove. The location wasn't a very lucky place for the Green family. He was placed in the vault with his father on April 4th, 1790. It only took Savannah about 30 years to lose the body of Nathaniel Green and his son. A committee was appointed and tried unsuccessfully to locate the final resting spot of Nathaniel Green. Finally, in 1901, Asa Bird, president of the Rhode Island Society of Cincinnati, came to Savannah for the purpose of trying to track down the final burial place of Nathaniel Green. During the inspection of a number of family vaults in Colonial Park Cemetery, the body of the general and his son were found in the Graham Mossman family vault. There was a number of pieces of evidence which left no doubt that the bodies were sought after. In 1902, the bodies of Major General Nathaniel Green and his son were moved to their final resting place in Johnson Square here in Savannah. They were placed underneath the monument which bears his name. This obelisk is seen by millions of people every year as they stroll through the streets of Savannah.
Interesting. Then there is the ever so haunted Moon River Brewing Company. The building that houses the Moon River Brewing Company was built in 1821 by Eleazar Early. It was first used as a city hotel. Savannah's prominent and wealthy residents regularly gathered here to share the fine spirits which were imported from all over the globe. A number of notable people stayed at the city hotel throughout the years, including James Audubon, who was a guest at the hotel for over 6 months. The Savannah City Hotel hosted its last guest in 1864, right before General Sherman claimed the city in his famous March of the Sea during the American Civil War. The building also served as a hospital during Savannah's numerous yellow fever outbreaks. Hundreds of people, mostly children, died on the upper floors of the building during these outbreaks, when the building functioned as the makeshift hospital. It's not surprising that child spirits are often seen in the Moon River Brewing Company. In more recent times, the building which houses the Moon River Brewing Company has been used as a storage space, an office supply store, and actually sat vacant for almost 20 years until it was purchased in 1995. I feel like places that are abandoned for quite some time are a good hangout for ghosts.
Yeah.
It seems that way anyway.
Like they're squatters.
Yes. The Moon River Brewing Company came about just a few years later, and that's when the ghost stories started. Another area in the Moon River Brewing Company that gets a lot of attention is the basement. The most famous ghost at the company is one that the staff calls Toby and is seen in the basement moving silently through the shadows. The basement does certainly have more than its share of ghostly encounters with the living. Many people who go on ghost tours through the Moon River Brewing Company make a stop in the basement. So now we're going to talk about somebody who's actually gone there and says, I was in one of the ghost tours a few months back when a young woman started to panic. She claimed her entire right-hand side of her body became icy cold very quickly. She said she could hear voices, but couldn't make out what they were saying, at which point the experience ended. Was this caused by a ghost? I don't know. Many people have reported having feelings very similar to this while in the basement of the Moon River Brewing Company.
On the second floor of the brewing company, the famous shooting of James Stark took place. Shot by a town physician, Philip Minus, Stark was killed on the staircase. Or was it by the kitchen? Ask 3 people and get 3 different answers. You will come to find that many of the stories in Savannah have different versions, all depending on whom you're talking with. Stark's ghost is said to roam the main floor of the Moon River Brewing Company. Someone's personal accounts at the Moon River Brewing Company says, I personally have been witness to 2 events at Moon River, which can only be explained by the ghosts of the Moon River Brewing Company messing with people. Last summer, I was on a date with a lovely young lady. We went to the Moon River for dinner. During the course of dinner, she excused herself to the restroom. The minutes ticked by as I started to wonder if she really bailed on me. Almost 10 minutes later, she came back to the table, tears streaming down her face. I asked her what was wrong. Is everything okay? After she took a deep breath and composed herself, she proceeded to tell me that she was in one of the stalls. When she tried to exit the stall, the door would not open. She assured me the door wasn't locked. She pushed on the door with all of her weight, but the door would not budge. She started to panic, but didn't want to cause a scene. After trying for another minute, she desperately called out, "Let me out of this stall." She gave the door another push, and it came right open. She went outside to try to calm herself down before coming back to the table. She didn't know I was interested in the paranormal and ghost, and I thought I would judge her like she was crazy. A minute later, the waitress came to our table to refill our drinks. She noticed that my date was a mess and asked if everything was okay. My date looked at the waitress and said, "You won't believe me if I told you, but something just happened to me in your restroom. I think a ghost was messing with me." She told the waitress the whole story, just to have the waitress reply, "Yeah, you're not the first to have that happen to them. The ghosts like to hang out in the women's restroom for some reason. I don't think that made my date feel any better." Another time I was sitting at a dining table having dinner with a friend. All of a sudden she jumps and her face turns white. Almost instantly, all of the blood drained from her skin. I asked her what was wrong. She told me, "Something has grabbed my leg twice. The first time I thought it was you, but this time both of your hands are where I can see them." I asked her what she meant. Something grabbed her leg. She said it felt like someone had gripped her thigh and squeezed. She could feel a hand squeezing her leg. Well, she has refused to ever go back to the Moon River Brewing Company since.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Just getting a little sexual harassment by ghosts. I mean, that's pushing it.
Yeah. Hands off there, Moon River. There's also, of course, activity on the upper floors. A whole bunch of different ghostly and shadowy events have been reported. The infamous lady in white. Why are ghosts always dressed in white? People being pushed down the stairs. Construction crews being chased out by unforeseen forces. And it's all happened on the upper floor of the Moon River Brewing Company. According to many sources, the fourth floor seems to harbor dark energy. Is the energy that people feel on this floor, are the ghosts that people see and experience up there, the result and death of suffering when the building was used for a hospital and people were dying from yellow fever? Well, it's certainly possible. The Moon River website says, "Our haunted pub crawl does occasionally go on the Moon River Brewing Company for a tour of the location and telling of the stories. When you call to talk with us, make sure you let us know that you're interested in visiting the Moon River Brewing Company, and we'll do our best to place you and your family on a tour that goes there. It isn't every night. Good to know." Throughout the year, numerous groups come to Savannah for a chance to investigate the Moon River Brewing Company. And honestly, it seems like it's quite a hard place to investigate because it's right beside the main street in historic Savannah. So with its thin walls, it's very easy for noise to leak in from the outside. But it seems like they actually do encourage you to bring K2 monitors and voice recorders that you can capture EVPs. And it seems like a really cool spot to go visit. So Jen, do you want to go to do you want to go to Savannah?
Yeah, I was just very excited when we were talking about it. I'm like, so does that mean we're going to go?
That would be amazing. I'd love to go to Savannah.
Me too.
Yeah.
We'll add that to our list.
It seems like there's just so many haunted stories and just like the history of it and how there's so many things built on top of it. Like, no wonder it's haunted.
Maybe we could bust out your old voodoo lady costume and we could wear it.
Yeah, I'd have to do my makeup, make me look super cakey white with like a whole bunch of, bones sticking out of my face. She did.
Very attractive. Yeah.
She did. So that pretty much wraps up today's episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed our little audio tour of Savannah, Georgia and its hauntings. Jen, if people want to find out more about you and I, they can find us on social media, but where can they find us?
Well, we do love our Instagram. So Booze and Bourbon on Instagram, Booze and Bourbon, the podcast on Facebook. We do, I wanted to say tailgate, but that's not the word I was looking for.
Tailgate.
Starlight? No. Occasionally. Moonlight. Oh, wow. On YouTube. And of course, if you want to be a little bit more, in our secret circle, you can be a Patreon. Which would be very exciting because we put a lot of fun videos and leak secret information.
Ooh, yes, exactly. And if you become a patron, then you also get some cool things like stickers, magnets, and some handwritten love from yours truly. And if you want to like and subscribe to our podcast, you can pretty much find us anywhere podcasts live, from Stitcher to Spotify to Apple to... You can find us out there. You just have to Google us. And if you have any stories, we have not done any listener stories for a while, so I want to hear your stories. What has freaked you out over the past 6 months? I know lots of things have freaked Jen and I out. So I guess we're going to have to maybe write into the Ghost Story Guys, Two Girls, One Ghost, some of those other ghostly podcasts that we listen to. Maybe even From the Shadows would like to hear some of our spooky ass stories. But anyway, so guys, if you have anything to share with us, please let us know. Email us at boozeandbourbon, BOOSAND, bourbon @gmail.com.
Would you rather questions are also appreciated as well.
Yes. So Jen can embarrass me and make me crawl underneath the desk and not want to continue to podcast for the rest of the day. So make sure that you stay tuned for an all-new episode coming your way next Friday. Thanks so much for listening, and thank you from the bottom of our ghostly hearts.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Booze and Bourbon is part of the ABV network. For more information or to advertise on the show, please head over to abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.